Bismillāh, ir-Raḥmān, ir-Raḥīm. Welcome back. I'm your host, Rebecca Ann, the Neurospicy Revert. If you've been following my story, you already know by now that I did not walk a straight path to Islam. My road wasn't lit with clarity or peace. It was paved with survival, with mistakes, trauma, rebellion, and a deep aching need to be free. But freedom, I've learned, is not the absence of control. It's the presence of safety. And before I could ever understand that, I had to live through the opposite. When I was 19, I thought marriage was my ticket out. Not love, not destiny, just escape. After years of living under my mother's microscope, where every thought was questioned and every emotion was too much, marriage felt like deliverance. I met Justin online in an AOL chat room back when your screen name could make you anyone you wanted to be. I was 18 female Texas. He was older, local, calm, and steady. He had a car, a job, and his own place. All the things that made him look like stability to a girl who had never known it. He wanted me. And when you grow up being told you're a burden, wanted sounds a lot like worthy. We didn't fall in love. We fell into roles. He wanted a quiet, obedient wife, and I wanted an escape hatch. I dyed my hair orange, put safety pins in my jeans, and even convinced myself rebellion was identity. He liked metal and Magic, the card game. Suddenly, so did I. I didn't even know who I was anymore. I just knew I wasn't her daughter. My parents hated him, which of course made me love him even more. He proposed with a $100 Walmart ring during a game night with his friends. No speech, no romance, just a box and a question. And I said yes. Not because I loved him, but because I loved the idea of being somewhere else. I wasn't saying yes to Justin. I was saying yes to silence, to space, to not having to ask permission to breathe. Freedom, even in the wrong hands, felt holy. At first, it was calm. Late dinners, cards, movies, quiet nights that I mistook for peace. But it didn't take long before the ghosts of my childhood unpacked their bags in my new home. I brought my trauma with me, and it wore my mother's voice. I didn't know how to love without testing it, didn't know how to be safe without sabotaging it. And every argument felt like proof that I was too much, just like she had said. I was defensive, reactive, and starving for validation. And even though I'd left her house, my mother still lived rent-free in my head. She'd call and say things like, maybe if you cooked more, cleaned this, or prayed more. That classic manipulation disguised as concern. And Justin listened. He wanted peace, but his version of peace required compliance. Slowly, I started shrinking. He didn't have to tell me to be quiet. I just learned how. When I finally started cracking under the weight of it all, they didn't see trauma, they saw disorder. Together, my mother and my husband decided that the lithium wasn't helping my bipolar. No new evaluation, no new doctor, no new testing, just an assumption that something was wrong with me still and the medicine wasn't doing its job anymore. And that's how I ended up on Lexapro and clonazepam at 19 years old. The first few weeks felt like a miracle. The fog lifted a little, my mind slowed, my heart stopped racing. But then I realized I wasn't healing. I was disappearing. Those pills dulled everything. Joy, fear, desire, hunger, even pain. It was like someone had turned down the volume on my entire existence. I'd stand in the shower, staring at the wall for half an hour, unable to cry, unable to think, just numb. And for the next 4 years, 2004 to 2009, that numbness was my reality. By the time I had Ahmed, I didn't recognize the woman in the mirror. And when I finally stopped the medication, it felt like waking up after a 4-year nap in someone else's body. I wasn't bipolar. I was traumatized. And they medicated the symptom instead of healing the wound. 6 months into our marriage, the walls started to crack. His family began asking when we'd have kids. His mom would say things like, "It'll settle her down," as if motherhood was a cure for everything wrong with me. He started bringing it up too, not someday, but now. And I froze, because how could I raise a child when I was still trying to raise myself? So I went to my gynecologist, quietly, and I got on birth control. When he found out, he didn't just feel betrayed, he felt emasculated. And his family made sure to fuel that fire. Suddenly, I wasn't just a wife with a mind of her own. I was disobedient, ungrateful, not wifey material. The walls closed in again, and I did what trauma-trained women do best. I self-destructed. When Justin and I started unraveling, I went looking for air, and I found it in all the wrong places. Girls' night at Graham Central Station, loud music, cheap perfume, tequila, and denial. It was chaos, but it felt like home. And that's where I met Juan, the roughneck every East Texas dad warns his daughter about. Tan, dangerous, and charming. He could two-step like it was foreplay. And when he smiled, every bit of common sense I had evaporated. At first, it was just dancing, then flirting, and then everything else. And suddenly, I was living 2 lives. Wife by night, escape artist by day. And for a while, it felt powerful. The secrecy, the validation, the sense of control I thought I had. But that was a lie. Because every morning after, I'd look in the mirror and see the same broken girl hiding behind new sins. I wasn't free. I was just finding better lit prisons. When I told Justin, I expected chaos. I braced for the yelling, the violence, the kind of rage I'd grown up with. But he didn't yell, not at first. He just stared. And that silence was worse than any scream. He then asked all the questions I'd already been asking myself. Who is he? Or, I knew you were crazy, but this? My mother was right. You are a whore. And I didn't have answers, just excuses that didn't make sense, not even to me. By the end of the night, he packed his things. No long goodbye, no big fight, just the sound of drawers closing and the front door clicking shut. And then nothing. No noise, no control, no one to belong to. For the first time in my life, I was no one's anything. Not a wife, not a daughter, just me. And I had no idea who that was. Healing has a funny way of humbling you. I've made peace with that 19-year-old girl, the one who mistook rebellion for power, sex for self-worth, and chaos for freedom. She wasn't evil. She wasn't broken. She was just trying to feel alive. Freedom without healing isn't freedom at all. It's just another kind of captivity. And that's what trauma does. It teaches you to survive so long that you forget how to live. If you've ever outgrown the version of yourself that everyone else needed you to be, remember, God doesn't ask you to shrink for the comfort of others. He asks you to rise into who you were always meant to become. The breaking was never the end of you. It was the beginning of your becoming. With endless dua and gratitude, I'm Rebecca Ann, the Neurospicy Revert. Until next time, stay soft where the world tried to make you hard.